There is a player that's making a lot of money now. A guy that was very upset getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs by the Rams, who then wins the Super Bowl. He wasn't very happy with the contract dispute in the offseason. Also, Dak Prescott getting $40 million. So why not? Seeing another quarterback make his money as the Arizona Cardinals pay their star quarterback a 5-year, $230.5 million contract, $160 million guaranteed, which makes him the second annual paid player in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, then Kyler Murray. It's a lot of money. Kyler Murray now is going to be a Cardinal for 5 years, so no more complaining, Kyler. You got your money. Be very, very happy. I'll tell you, there's a player right now in the NFL that has won an MVP and has not gotten his money. And maybe because he's his own agent, or maybe just the Baltimore Ravens are trying to do everything as they possibly can to wonder if they're going to go and move forward with Lamar Jackson or move elsewhere in the offseason with all these quarterbacks that everybody keeps talking about. But if I was Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't be very happy. I've won an MVP. I've taken my team to the playoffs almost every single year but last year, only because of injuries and losing all the running backs that they did. And
corners, too. Three corners. Yeah.
They lost their young wide receiver. Now he lost his best wide receiver. He goes over there to Arizona. So if I was Lamar Jackson, my team is worse than it was last year offensively, not defensively.
Hey,
offensively.
It's a team of 3 tight ends now, including our guy Charlie Kohler.
Yes. I think that if I was Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't be happy. But you can't attack anybody that gets their money. But to see this as a whole, Kyler Murray has deserved it. I think he's one of the top 5, top 6 quarterbacks in the league. He has to stay away from injuries. I know everybody says that he's small and he's this, he's that. He's still one of the top 5 accurate quarterbacks in the league. He still has proven himself. I know if you're a fantasy guru, if you're a fantasy guy, you want Kyler Murray on your team because of what he does. He's a dual threat. But not even that. Not even with fantasy. What he does on the field. The first 8 games last year, he was as good as anybody. Everybody thought he was the MVP. The second half of the season kind of fell off a little bit. Still played very well. I wonder his health situation. That's the only thing with Kyler Murray. If he could stay healthy and he could protect himself, I think Kyler Murray is worth every single penny they offered him.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. I know people are complaining about the playoff game. It's one playoff game. It's his first playoff game. And they had a dud against the Rams. The Rams are a talented team, too. And they ended up winning the Super Bowl. They ended up beating the Buccaneers. They ended up beating the Bengals. They beat other good teams in the process to get there. Eli Manning's first playoff game, he got shut out by the Panthers 23-0 in 2005. They ended up winning 2 Super Bowls. So I wouldn't jump the gun on that. The injury is the only thing, just because they've had a bad offensive line up until last year. Last year it played well. So he ended up taking the most quarterback hits in a player's first 2 years among active quarterbacks. So that's one of the things that's hindered them, as well as his injuries kind of coming in the second half of certain seasons too, in 2020 and in 2021. As far as the value of the contract, it's a lot, but it might be something that ends up being worth it down the road because we see quarterback contracts keep getting bigger and bigger. So Kyler Murray might be a little much at the beginning just with the risk of the injuries, but down the road it might be end up beneficial. And Arizona cannot bank on drafting another quarterback again if they let Kyler Murray walk, because they've been a bad quarterback franchise. Most of their success has come from getting other veteran quarterbacks in there. Guys like Kurt Warner, who won Super Bowl that they had, and they lost to the Steelers recently with Carson Palmer. So they haven't been good at developing it themselves. Also, Cliff Kingsbury, as a coach, Kyler Murray was attached to the hip from the draft. That's why they got rid of Josh Rosen right away and drafted Kyler Murray number 1 overall. So you have to stick to this plan if you're going to extend Cliff Kingsbury, who's had his question marks as a coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. He's fine, but he's had his moments where he's collapsed in the second half and really questionable play calling and development of those wide receivers.
DeShaun Watson seems like his name is all over the tabloids. The lawsuits that he has, paying off 20 ladies, and now dealing with this civil situation. He has come out this past week and said to the NFL, if you suspend me for the season, expect to get a lawsuit. I think that he's absolutely right. I don't know what is true and what is false about this story. The fact is that it went through 3 criminal courts and none of them were eligible to convict him or even want to take this to court because it's really a civil situation. There's nothing that I believe they could prove to be fair to this story. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. And it doesn't mean that DeShaun Watson isn't a bad guy. We don't know what he is. But the fact is, if 3 courtrooms didn't want to take this through criminal court, that tells you that they don't really have as much as you think they have on him. I hear what people are saying, what has happened in the past with players betting on sports and missing a season. And everybody says this is worse. We don't know if it's true. There is no proof. And whatever is true, he's admitted to, and he has proof that it was all of them were agreeing to what they were doing. I can't sit here today and say, hey, DeShaun Watson is a really, really bad guy, but I don't know what the true story is. Now, do I think that him telling everybody that he is completely innocent, I believe him? Most people that say they're innocent are usually not. He does have a lot of money, and he can hide his terrible personality through the money that he has. But again, we can't prove that. And if the NFL suspends him for a full season, 17 games, I think it's an absolute ridiculous move. And if I was DeShaun Watson, I would absolutely sue the NFL, because something like this, I would see 6, 8 games, no more than 8 games, because there's nothing criminal that he did. And I don't want to hear about Goodell trying to save a brand or protect a brand. The brand is already in mishmash. This man's making $40-something million. He gets all these big deals, endorsements. They're still making hand over fist money. They're still getting new TV deals. I don't see what you see on paper that he has done where you can take him out for a full season.
Yeah, I think just with the uniqueness of this situation, it's going to be very difficult for the NFL to create some kind of verdict that is too obvious, because we haven't seen a case like this where there's so many people making claims, and yet there was also so many settlements at the same time. And of the 26 settlements, we don't know who's telling the truth and who's not. I'm willing to believe right now a half and half theory. I think there's a lot of women that wants that money, and I think there's a lot of them that are telling the truth, because these women now that have been victims of this have started to come out a lot more in the last couple years. So that's good that they're making that kind of progression, but also the uniqueness of the case and the evidence they have right now, I don't know if it's necessarily strong enough for a whole season. I think 10 games is what he will end up getting just based on this information. Now, there is going to be another hearing in a couple weeks, depending on some new information that could come out. If there ends up being more negative stuff not in Watson's favor, maybe that at that point he'll get the whole season, but I can't see him getting the whole season right now. I think 10 games definitely is the merit, just based on a very high sample size of it. We've seen domestic violence cases in the past that haven't been like this, where it's so many instances. Ray Rice's wasn't like that. Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, Josh Brown going back to the Giants. That was a terrible one. How he only got suspended 1 game was ridiculous. But still, those have been one case. This is all different cases. The NFL is definitely going to be in hot water either way. They're going to take backlash no matter what the verdict is. But I think they're going to have to make an example out of this one, being it is the most unique case, set the bar for this now. I agree with you. I don't think he'll get suspended the whole season as of right now, just with how many that haven't been known of what the evidence was.
Jimmy G was granted permission to seek a trade. I expect Jimmy G to find himself a new job somewhere else. I don't know if it's Seattle in the same division. I don't know where any other team is looking for a quarterback, and he'd be backing up unless DeShaun Watson misses the season. I don't know where Jimmy G is going. He's right now rehabbing himself. I think his time and his reign over there with the 49ers is over.
Yeah, it seems that way. I think especially now with the progressions that Trey Lance has made, it seems like a lot of the players like him. Seattle's really the only shot that I think they would give him a lot. The Browns probably would just do one little pick, and that's really it, just a swing at the fence type thing if DeShaun Watson ends up getting traded.
I know everybody's heard that Matthew Tkachuk has become available by the Calgary Flames, and the Islanders have struck out with Johnny Gaudreau, who goes to the Blue Jackets, and the Blue Jackets rebuilding and done some good things this offseason. The Islanders are the only team out of all 32 teams that have done absolutely nothing. And I know everybody's looking for that other superstar to play with Barzal. And Matthew Tkachuk, 24 years old, he looks like a bull. He fits everything that the Islanders are looking for when it comes offensively. I cannot see the Islanders trading away the prospects and the draft stock that Calgary is going to be asking for from Matthew Tkachuk. Plus, you got to pay him. I don't know. Now, is he a perfect fit for the Islanders? Absolutely. Speed, hits, mean, gritty. Scores goals. He's the perfect guy to play with Barzal. He's really another Johnny Gaudreau, just faster and bigger. But I just don't know if Lou Lamoriello understands what he wants to do offensively this coming year. And with a new coach, Lambert, and just really what the Islanders are trying to do this offseason to add another voice in that locker room and a powerhouse offensive player. Now, Kadri is still available. And I think the Islanders are trying to free up some salary cap so they can bring Kadri in. I am not signing Kadri, being that he's 30 years old, to a 7-8 year deal. I think it's a big mistake by the Islanders. Now, Matthew Tkachuk, it's a good move. If you can get Matthew Tkachuk and just trading away maybe 1 or 2 prospects and a couple of draft picks, I do it. I have a feeling that the Calgary Flames is going to want a hell of a lot more than that.
Now, the one thing that could hurt the Flames, though, is the fact that he already announced that he's not re-signing. So that's already going to diminish the market. And then we've seen Lou Lamoriello try to be smart with.
You say that all the time. It diminishes the market. I've never seen it diminish the market like you say it does. They still get the players that they want. So how much is it going to diminish the market?
It might be where one team ends up overpaying for him, but what is the actual market value for a guy that already wants out is the question. We only know it as the trade that comes out and actually happens, but we don't know all the trade scenarios because they're all inside of those team calls. That's the only reason reason I say that it's going to hurt the Flames for getting the market return that they ended up wanting because it was so sudden as it was. Now, they knew they had to pay him, so they were trying to manage the Gaudreau situation first. Obviously, that didn't work out for them. So now they had to really make Tkachuk work, and they only settled on arbitration. So that's a bad look for the Flames as it is, that trusting of an organization to be able to make that kind of trade.
All right. And now we're going to add a little bit of
Crunch time!
It's time for Crunch Time.
Read the time. Got to see the pitch.
All right, we'll start with Juan Soto, the big news of the week. Buy or sell? The Mets or Yankees will end up with Juan Soto.
sell. I can't see it. They're not trading out of the same division. I don't care what the Mets offer. And as far as the Yankees are concerned, even though Aaron Judge could be on his way out, I can't see the Yankees trading away any of these prospects that they believe could be the future of this organization. I'm selling it.
I'm going to sell it too. I've mentioned the Padres are the team that I'm thinking. I also like the White Sox as a potential example. Texas is possible. I think they would have to trade a lot more on their major league roster. Unless they want to trade their two top pitchers already, it's going to be very hard for them to make that kind of thing work for just one player, and they already have the two big contracts already invested. So I would say the Padres and the White Sox, which would be the two teams I would do. I think the Mets are still in the running if they're willing to take on Corbin. I don't know if the Nationals are going to be able to want to do that right away, so I am going to sell as well. Buy or sell? Speaking of Johnny Gaudreau, he will be traded before the 4th year of his big Blue Jackets contract.
Probably. I mean, the Blue Jackets like trading away players. They don't like holding on to players.
Yeah.
As we're hearing, Patrick Laine, but could be gone before the season starts. Matthew Tkachuk could be traded over there. Who knows? I'm going to buy it.
I'm going to sell it. I think they're going to get a little better at this point now with John Davidson in terms of the player development department. You're right. They have a hard time holding on to players, but I think that's also more of a old branding thing, the old dysfunction they used to have. I think there's a little more stability there now. You're right. It's not a great place to play, but I'm going to sell. I don't think they're going to do 4 years. All right. Buy or sell? The Knicks will trade for Donovan Mitchell within the next 2 weeks.
I'm going to buy it. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than we expect because Danny Ainge is going to try to pry away top draft picks. I have heard that the Knicks aren't going over 5, but who knows? Maybe Danny Ainge can get one more from them and try to rob the Knicks, but I buy it. I think it's going to happen.
I'm going to sell just because of that stingy. I still think the Knicks are the favorites right now to do it just because I think the other scenarios don't work out, but Danny Ainge is still going to try to push it as far as he can to do that because, one, as you mentioned all the time, he doesn't like the Knicks, and two, he is very stingy. I think there's going to be some other players. I think he'll still try to fight to get Grimes as well, so I am going to sell it. Buy or sell? Another quarterback will surpass Kyler Murray's contract next offseason.
I believe it. I buy it. It goes up every single year. And Kyler Murray is making a lot of money, but he's not even the highest paid a season. It's Aaron Rodgers. So do I think it's going to happen? Yes. It's going to go up and up and up until it doesn't go up anymore or it just keeps on going up. So I buy it.
Yeah, I'll buy it too. I can see it being Joe Burrow. The Bengals have definitely changed the organizational philosophy, not being cheap anymore like we saw Mike Brown do in the past. I think they realize the modern mold of it is to pay the quarterbacks now, and they've, I think, freed enough money with the rest of their roster kind of being gone. I know they're having trouble playing Bates right now, but beyond that, I think they're doing well in terms of getting everything else, so I am going to buy it. Buy or sell? The Islanders will trade for Vladimir Tarasenko or JT Miller.
They're going to have to. If they can't get Matthew Tkachuk, they need another offensive player, so I'm going to buy it because they need somebody, and the only two guys that we've heard that will probably be available this offseason, I don't know if it's Tarasenko or JT Miller is. I think that's the only way they can move up and get the player that they want, so I'm going to buy it.
I'm going to buy it too. I think JT Miller is going to definitely be someone that's moved. I think Tarasenko will stay at this point. The Blues had a nice season, but I think the Canucks are trying to purge assets. I know they just paid Besser, but beyond that, I think they're having trouble with the rest of their young players, so I am going to buy it. All right, buy or sell? Aaron Judge will have 60 home runs this season.
I believe it. I don't think he's going to get 61, but I think he'll be on the cusp of 59, 60. He wins the MVP. He goes and he rides off to the sunset to San Francisco. That's where I think he goes. The Yankees will not bring him back. He wins the MVP. The last Yankee to win an MVP was Alex Rodriguez. So I believe it. I buy it.
I'm going to sell it for two reasons. One, I think the pressure of the record will definitely be something, especially in Yankee legacy. And two, I think there will be one injury.
Didn't say he's going to get 61. I said he's going to get 60.
Okay. I still think 60 is going to be hard because I also think he also going to get one IL stint at this point this year. He's been healthy all year. Kudos to him. I think kudos to the Yankees for keeping him that way, but I think he'll get one just to hold him back enough. I think 57, 58 I think he'll get. I am going to sell it. All right, one more. KD and Kyrie will be on the Nets at the start of the season.
I buy it. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't see Kyrie going anywhere because I don't think the Lakers are going to give the Nets 2 first-round draft picks, and I don't see KD going anywhere because they want too much for him. So I am going to buy it. Both of them will be Brooklyn Nets.
2 weeks ago, I would have probably said no, but now I'm starting to believe it a lot more. are the Lakers. I think they would have pulled the trigger already on Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook, if that whole thing, if they were able to get it going, if they cared that much. And Kevin Durant, it's just too much unknowns in those trade markets to make it work. DeAndre Ayton can't get traded, Tyler Hero, that whole situation, and nobody wants Ben Simmons, and he has to be off the team for the Nets to get any of these young players. So I am absolutely going to buy it at this point. I'm buying in a lot more of what you were saying the last couple of weeks.